I'm Aurier Schwartz, along with my co-hosts, Rachel Galligan and Pat Ralph. Welcome to the WNBAinsidr Show. Each week we cover different topics important to the W, using X's and O's along with key stats to bring honest and critical analysis. We're talking championships. We're talking Seattle Storm sweeping it. The broom is out. Goodbye, Washington. Pat, immediate reactions, thoughts. Let's go.
Pat,
well,
go
the
ahead.
Storm. What were you saying, Rachel?
I was going to say, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first immediate take is that, Seattle was the best and most consistent team all year. I mean, we talked about it all year. We were wondering who could challenge them, or are they really a championship team, or, are they actually going to do it? And we kept wondering, is this team going to challenge, or this kid team might could be in the finals, or this team could be the best matchup? Well, I mean, it ended up being that Seattle was the team from start to finish, just had their foot on the pedal, and it was theirs, and everything just clicked for them. They caught lightning in a bottle. And they just had an incredible year, and we saw it here in these finals why they were the best team in the league this year. So it really should be no surprise, and kudos to them, and just really an incredible season, and just really what they did was just remarkable. And I think this is a team that we can talk more about as we'll get into. Is they're set up to be around for a while and contend for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I agree. I think Seattle from top to bottom, from the beginning of the season, I mean, they've been dominant, but look at the players they've got on this team. They've kind of just been like this ticking time bomb waiting to go off. We obviously knew Brianna Stewart was something special. She's been something special for a very long time now, even at a young 24 that she is. She's the best player in the league right now. And then you combine that with the likes of Jewel Lloyd, and we can go down the entire Clark, and just how consistent and steady and tough she's been. Natasha Howard. I mean, how about her performance last night? It was incredible.
Right.
And then you're looking at just your anchor, your heart and soul of this team, and one of the greatest point guards of all time in Sue Bird. So the pieces are here. They've been here for a little bit of time now. And then you bring in Dan Hughes, who really, from the moment he got that job, sat down and analyzed this team. He was talking about how he just watched thousands of hours of film, hundreds of thousands of hours on film before training camp, and was just studying this team, and how could he pull out the best of all of these superstars all at one time. And that is not an easy task to achieve. I mean, Seattle had these superstars on this team last year and struggled. And so, lightning in a bottle, I like that phrase, but at the same time, this very well could be the start of a dynasty, because they've got the pieces in place, they've got the leadership there. And anytime you've got Sue Bird leading on that capacity with that level of talent surrounding her, they were the best team in the league this year. And one interesting thing, throughout the course of this season, we covered all these teams, and we talked about different teams that had lulls, or different teams that got on hot streaks. And every team kind of hitting a point in the season where they really hit like a slump. That's one thing that Seattle never really truly did, was slump.
That's a great point, Rachel. That's such a good point.
At least from a point of wins and losses. Did you guys realize that they only lost 2 consecutive games in a row? They didn't lose 2 in a row until the playoffs against Phoenix. That was the first time 2 in a row. So we're talking about just consistent poise and constant winning. And I mean, they were dominant. And I think we all probably knew that, especially watching it. But I guess for me, I kind of sat back this year and was wondering, man, is this team going to kind of hit a rough spot? And they never did.
Well, and even, I mean, look, I'm all for the comparisons, and so I don't want to overshadow anything that Seattle did with comparing them to the Lynx dynasty in the early stages of that. But I think we should be comparing it to WNBA teams. And so, if you look at the way the Lynx played in those 7 years, it was just those games where, and I think I saw it a lot in the finals, where anytime DC got close, they would kind of, push them away and keep them at bay. Kind of like the older sibling pushing the younger kid away with his hand, and the younger kid swinging and wants to get a hit in, but just can't. And that's what they did consistently in these past 2 games. The first game was just domination. The second game, there was moments where Seattle kind of pushed them at bay. This third game, they showed me that championship mindset, that next level focus that really takes you to it. But before we get too deep into Seattle, I do want to talk a little bit the elephant in the room. The Washington Mystics, in my opinion, underperforming by getting swept in the finals. Is that a bold statement? Or, like, I understand Seattle was amazing, but Rachel, do you believe that it's bold of me to claim that I think they underperformed, not getting a victory in this finals?
I would agree with that. I think Washington is a very talented team. This is a team that's got a superstar on it, obviously from Elena Delle Donne, and they've got some key pieces on that team that have shown themselves to play at such a high level at different points this year, and even their dominant performance against Seattle, beating them, it was probably like 20 or whatever it ended up being, but. I'm a little bit surprised of the sweep, and I'm going to pose this question to you. I mean, how much does Elena Delle Donne's knee injury affect the outcome of kind of how these finals went out? How do you guys feel about that?
I mean,
go ahead, Ari.
No, go first, Pat.
I think they at least get a game. I mean, I think we go to 4. I think she has that much of an impact. I think they at least get a game. I'm sure there's some people out there that are going to say the series goes 5, and there's even more people that are going to say that Washington could even win the series, I think. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't even go as far to say 5. But I think if she was I think you'd at least they would have won at least one game, and they could have forced this to 4 games. But I still think, I mean, it's like both of you guys said. I mean, Washington was a good team this year, but Seattle was just on whole nother level. As you outlined really well, Rachel, in that explanation you did a few minutes ago. And so, Arya, you go ahead now. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting question that it depends how you look at it. Do I think 100%, Elena Delle Donne at 100%, does this series go differently? I say it depends. If Delle Donne gets injured and then gets back to 100%, I think the same thing happens. I think they get swept. If she doesn't get injured in the semifinals, then I think they can pull it off, and I think maybe we go 5, maybe we go 4. I think Seattle still probably wins it, and maybe I'll go back to my original prediction. But my thought, really specifically to that, is something I saw Pokey Chapman do a live video on, and she really hit it on the head, in my opinion. When earlier in the season, Delle Donne had some illnesses and missed some games, the whole team around her stepped up to fill that hole, to fill that gap. Yeah. When she got hurt in the playoffs this year, the team looked frazzled. Almost like, yeah, during the regular season, it's normal basketball. Okay, we know how to handle this. But in the playoffs, in the postseason, no, we need our vet. We need our MVP to be there to guide us. And not to be a jerk, but just be quite frankly, like, Chrissy Tolliver was not on that level throughout the playoffs. I mean, yeah, she had some good games in the playoffs, but, like, you're looking at crunch time. I mean, I lost count of how many times she got scared and just panicked when in the early court trap. I mean, she'd get across half court and just the trap, and I don't want to. Your thoughts, Rachel? I mean, what did you see when that trap happened?
Well, the trap caused some issues, but you got to anticipate that that's coming. So, and it's not like Washington was necessarily like throwing the ball all over the place. They actually, for the most part, if you just looked at the box score, did a fairly good job of taking care of the basketball. It was just those turnovers, especially the ones that, and there were a few that just kind of stick out in my mind. One from game 3 where Tolliver just comes across half court and like throws a lazy pass to the wing, and Sammy Whitcomb just snags it and like takes off the other way. I mean, it was things like that, and then there was another one, Delle Donne got trapped, and she was really frazzled, and they weren't really cutting, and she ended up turning it away. Those turnovers were converted to easy baskets for Seattle, and those are gut-wrenching mistakes. Those things are hard to defend, and those are momentum swings. And in a finals situation, you can't make those mistakes, or you've got to eliminate those as much as possible. So the turnovers that Washington did have were critical. They weren't just like, oh, let me try and throw a high-low, the ball gets flying out of bounds, and we're setting up our defense. They were turnovers that really led to transition points, and that's what really hurt them. And especially in game 2, we talked about it before, that fourth quarter, those 4 or 5 turnovers just in the fourth quarter that just killed them. You eliminate one of those, and it's a different outcome in this game. So, or potentially. So, just not necessarily the number of turnovers, it was the type of turnovers that were happening, and a lot of them did come out of that trap.
Pat, I want to ask you something real quick. I'm looking at the box scores, and I was at the game. And you're looking at the box scores, and they reflect a completely different story. To me, the first half, this was a battle, a chess game. Teams really, jockeying it out. Seattle kind of just looked calm, cool, and collective, while Washington kind of looked reactive. But looking at the box scores, I mean, DC won the second half by 1 point. So my thoughts are to you. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about that. I mean, I feel like the second half they looked worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think Seattle at that point, I mean, you think about it, they were up already, if I'm doing my math correctly, that's a 17-point lead already at halftime. So, yeah, they won the half by 1, but at that point, going into the second half, I mean, I think everyone kind of knew that unless the Mystics really turned it on, the game was kind of over. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew even at halftime, like, I don't think they're getting back in this. And I mean, I know they made that nice run at the beginning and midway through the fourth quarter, but then Seattle just shut the door there at the end, and broke that game again wide open. But I think what it was is Seattle, like we said, they come out and they remind me so much of the Warriors in the NBA, where they just can come out and they can just blitz you offensively, and they can just go for these explosions where the game is like within a couple points, like 2 or 3 points. You turn around, you go away from your TV, and all of a sudden it's a 15-point game and the game's out of reach. And I think that's what Seattle does, is just like, because they can get hot and they can make shots, and what they're able to do is they came out, like you said, you described it really well. It's like they came out with energy. They came out with the mindset that this is a business trip. We're here to finish this off in one game tonight, and we have a flight from DC to Seattle tonight, and we have a trophy coming with us. And that was their attitude. And DC came out like they're the ones there. They should come out with the urgency. Their backs are against the wall. They're trying to stay alive. They want to play well in front of the home crowd, even though it was a different arena. But they didn't seem to come out with that. And I didn't like they seemed flat the whole night, or at least for most of the night. I thought, as you said, the energy, they didn't seem as engaged as Seattle did. And I think it's just like, yeah, they may have outscored Seattle in the second half, but Seattle had already set the tone in that first half that the climbing the mountaintop was already going to be just too difficult. And just they had already kind of, in a sense, unofficially kind of put that game away.
Let
me
add to that. It's Washington had runs in the second half. They were able to really, I think it was in the third quarter. What'd they do? They cut it to maybe 8 or 6.
I think it got to 6.
It did. I think it did get 6. And they honestly, it was nothing against Washington, but it was all to Seattle's credit. Washington's making these runs, and they were able to get some baskets to fall. They were getting it to the rim. They got to the free throw line. So, like, you kind of had a sense of like, oh man, this thing they might be able to crawl into this thing. But then what does Seattle do? And they are one of the, if not the best team in the league in terms of handling another team's run. They stay as poised as I have ever seen a team. In terms of just being able to take a hit, like, all right, Washington's on an 8-0 run. All right, we're going to get it into Stewie. She's going to get an and one and get to the free throw line. Boom, end of run. Momentum is done. Crowd is quiet. There were countless times in that game, in that second half, and really through the series, where Seattle just handled their opponent's runs consistently. And that is extremely difficult to do. And just watching that through these entire playoffs was incredible to see from them. And again, that speaks to the leadership of Sue Bird. That speaks to kind of the mentality of the team and the toughness around it. And it also speaks to Brianna Stewart and just the clutchness that she brings to the floor night in and night out.
I completely agree with you. I do want to touch on one more topic when it comes to the Mystics, and then we can move on to a little bit more of the championship talk, if you will.
Sure.
So a couple names I want to throw at you guys, and I want thumbs up, thumbs down their performance this finals. Maisha Hines-Allen, Pat, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up. She was really good. She gave him a nice spark plug off the bench. I mean, one of the things with Washington in this series where they actually played better than Seattle was off the bench. I mean, they actually got more scoring and production off the bench. That's half the reason why they were still in that game last night. I mean, half the reason they were still around was because of what their bench was doing then and keeping them in the game, and that Seattle wasn't getting a lot from its reserves until really that fourth quarter where, Sammy Whitcomb woke up and that kind of pushed them over the line. But, I mean, it's just, that for me, Hines Allen gave them a nice spark off the bench, and that was one thing that really impressed me with DC in this series. So thumbs up.
Throwing this over to Rachel. Aerial powers, not semifinals aerial powers, finals aerial powers.
Aerial powers. Unfortunately, I'm going to give her a thumbs down just from a struggling to make shots perspective. Finishing one for 4 in both games 1 and 3. She ended up going 2 for 4 in game 2, but I'll give her a thumbs down.
All right. Now a tricky one. This one, I'm going to throw it a Pat. Yeah, I'm going to throw it Pat. Ariel Atkins.
I got to say, overall, thumbs up.
That's a no-brainer.
I think it's thumbs up, yeah. I got to say thumbs up. In those first 2 games, she averaged, I think, 19 points per game in the first 2 games in Seattle. She was the one bright spot in the offense, And she was really the one spot that I said, hey, she's been playing really well and carrying the load and really doing her part. Now, she was really quiet in game 3, which I just was shocked by given how well she had played. Only 9 points on 2 of 6 shooting. But really in games 1 and 2, she was really good and stuff. And I'm encouraged by her. I think she's really been this year. We've talked about this before on the pod that I think behind Asia Wilson, I think she's really established herself as the second best rookie in this class. And I think that was a great pick by Washington. And she has really established herself as a really go-to scorer and just a nice player in their starting lineup who is going to be part of building this team going forward.
Something I want to throw out there in her first 2 games of the series, 0 turnovers. 0. Also, first 2 games, she was attempting 14 and 15 shots. Cut that in more than half in game 3. She was 2 for 6. 2 for 4 from 3-pointers. So she was one of the players who was actually making 3-pointers in that game. So, to me, that was kind of a head scratcher. And I've said this, off air, and I'll even say it on air. There was many points where I kind of thought to myself, okay, why is it that Ariel Atkins isn't getting more touches? It kind of seemed at a point they were forcing the ball to Deladon, which was kind of the argument last game. Why isn't Deladon getting the ball that much? They were forcing the ball to her. And now, Atkins, who was playing so well in those first 2 games, didn't look like she was getting the opportunities like we saw in the other games. So moving on to one last player, Rachel, I want to ask you about. TRP, Tara Ruffin-Pratt. Rachel, your thoughts, thumbs up or thumbs down? I'll even give you a thumbs in the middle if you want it.
I'll go with the thumbs in the middle option. Just honestly, I think her best game was game 3 in terms of just obviously sheer production. She finishes 3 for 6 from the field and knocks down a couple threes that were big. So she did come up with some big time shots and some points, but in terms of anything that probably needed a little more from her, at times. And that's kind of the big thing with Washington. Who was going to step up? Because between Tolliver, Deladon, Atkins, and at the same time, Atkins, that's kind of a bonus in my mind. She did what she did. That's an added bonus as a rookie, being able to come in here and play at that high of a level. There needed to be someone else in there that just really brought that next level energy, or they elevated their game to the next level, whether that's Natasha Cloud or TRP. Whatever it is, somebody needed to really kind of be playing at their best in this series to give Washington the edge. And I do feel like that next tier under those top kind of that core group of players struggled for whatever reason.
I agree with you. I think she showed some lights. I'll be quite frank. I'm a huge fan of Natasha Cloud. I love what she's doing. She struggled this finals. And when she struggled, they tried to supplement her with TRP. And at times it worked, at times it didn't. TRP doesn't have that offensive explosion and the kind of the way that Cloud kind of exudes to her teammates. And so that really, in my mind, caused a lot of issues for the Mystics throughout the game. Also, Sanders just wasn't able to get going, especially in this game. I want to flip it to the other side, though. We've talked a lot about Brianna Stewart. We've talked a lot about Sue Bird. Rachel, real quick, break down for me Clark's performance in these finals.
Coach Hughes, who really, I think he described her as kind of one of the unsung heroes here that kind of goes under the radar, which is easy to do when you've got a team full of talent and stars like the Storm do. But Clark is just kind of that steady cog that Seattle team needs, and he really referenced her as being kind of the she epitomizes Seattle basketball. With her toughness, the hustle plays, the consistency, kind of the tenaciousness she does. When the shot goes up, she's crashing the boards. She's relentless on both ends of the floor on the glass, and she comes up with those big plays, and she's consistent with it. She is, I agree, a very much an unsung hero of the Seattle Storm, who just brings a level of toughness that every championship team needs. It's just that piece that everybody needs to have, and she brings it, and she was consistent with it, I think, all year. And I would say that she even elevated it kind of midway through that Phoenix series. She took it to a whole other level in game 4 and 5, and then that carried over into these last 3 games, and she's a large part of this, why they won the championship.
Yeah, I mean, she played lights out. She played dominant. All right, she scored 15 points in Game 3, but I got to give an abundance of points for some of those offensive rebounds she got. She had 4 offensive rebounds, and every time they came at such a perfect moment to just slit the throat of Washington. Talk to me, Pat. Throw out a player from Seattle you feel didn't get enough attention in this championship run.
Sammy Whitcomb.
Oh, yeah, okay, of course. I forgot you're all about her hype train.
Well, I mean, look what she did in Game 5 against Phoenix. I mean, she was one of the sparks that got that game turned around in the fourth quarter, and which led to the Sue Bird, takeover there in the final quarter in that series. And it carried over this series. I mean, she just came off the bench. She just gave them good minutes. She became, just gave them a lot of energy and stuff. And I just like the way she plays. She plays hard, and just having her come in, be like a spark on both ends of the floor, and just being able to play good defense, be able to pass, distribute. Like, she was able to just bring a lot of energy off the bench. You need that from your bench players to keep that momentum going when your starters come out. And to have that, I think, was really important. So I really liked the intangibles she brought, and you could see it on the court. She's kind of the spirit of the team. She's talking to the players. She's doing cheers. She was really keeping everyone loose, and you need that when the stakes are at the highest. You need people who are really serious, but you also need people who are loose and are cool and keep everyone like level-headed and not let the moment get the best of them. And I think she did that really well.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I mean, like, I liked her basket celebrations. I'm a big fan of dancing down the court. So I was down with that. Somebody I want to point out is Jordan Canada. I mean, the rookie looked so poised, and I don't know who spoke to her. Didn't get a chance to ask Dan this, but like essentially my takeaway from her is just she knows how to play her role and how to focus in on her positive qualities and how they can benefit this team, and really focus on doing those and not trying to do too much. And fitting squares inside of square holes and circles inside of circle holes really worked for this team to get them to a point where they could just be so dominant throughout this whole league. Rachel, final thoughts on this Seattle
There's something on
run.
Canada. I mean, let's just look at a player like her who is a fierce competitor. She averaged, just over 16 minutes a game this year. But what valuable experience for her to not only just play under Sue Bird, but to see Sue Bird in this light this year and the run that they've made, and to go on and win a title or a championship. I'm already in college basketball mode, but to go on and win a championship like that, I mean, that's that's incredible. We're going to see some really, really positive things from Jordan Canada moving forward, and whether it's in this next year or the following year, I think her minutes are going to continue to increase. We're going to see moments, where offensively she's continuing to step up her game, being a little bit more efficient from the 3-point line. I'm really excited about the career of Jordan Canada. But my final thoughts on Seattle, I mean, they've been impressive since day one, and they finished as impressive as we thought they were all season. I mean, Brianna Stewart is the best player in the league. Sue Bird is the greatest leader in the league, and they showed it. They showed it. They deserve this championship, and I would not be surprised if they repeat in 2019.
Wow, you heard it here. Rachel making the prediction, and I don't think it's that bold. It's an interesting take that we're gonna have another episode for. But my man, Patty Ralph, talk to me. Final thoughts on Seattle.
Final thoughts on Seattle. Well, Rachel said it well. I mean, this team, they were the best and the most consistent from start to finish. They didn't really have any, struggles or any downs, any bad spots during the season. I tweeted this, and I said this last year, and I'm guilty of it. I was not a fan of the Dan Hughes hire. I just didn't think that. I just thought he was a retread. I'm like, why are they bringing someone in that's kind of we know what he was about? But I was wrong, and I'll be the first man. I was wrong, and he did a great job with this team. He unleashed what they've done defensively. He gets credit for that. We knew they had the talent. We knew they had the offense, but what he was able to do with this team defensively is what's so impressive. And I remember when we had that podcast, you remember, Ari, that night after the first night of the regular season, after opening day, and I said, shouldn't the Storm be better? And it's almost like they heard it or something. But I mean, this is a team that, like Rachel said, with the style they play at, and with the fact that this team outside of Sue Bird is really young and in their prime, and they have people who are and players that are, you said Stewie is only 24 years old. That's insane. She just turned 24 last month. That's insane. And she's already one of the probably 5 best players in the game, if not the best, depending on who you talk to. And they have Jordan Canada, and they have Jewel Lloyd. I mean, they have a trio there who they're going to build around. Natasha Howard, too. There's 4 of them right there who they're going to build around for a long time to come. And with the style they play at and the way the game is going, they are as I said, again, I compare them to the Warriors, where this is what the Warriors are doing when they broke out on the scene about 4 years ago. And then everyone's trying to play more like them, where they shoot a lot of threes and run and gun and doing that style play. This is the way the WNBA is going now. It's moving away from the half court to the full court and in transition. And Seattle's leading the way with that transformation and that style, the evolution of the game. And they could be around for a long time to come. And I think they could easily repeat next year. I would not be surprised if they did. But let's see. You never know. We haven't had a repeat champion since it's been a long time since we have to go back and double check when the last back-to-back champions were. Might be the Comets, as crazy as that is. So it's been a long time. It's really hard to do. So we'll see.
No. I mean, look, if you're down with the conspiracy theories, Lynx always win every other year.
Right. Lynx are the favorites.
And well, no, then don't forget the Lauren Jackson, Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd conspiracy theory.
Oh yes.
Flip their initials. Come on, you know me, Pat.
You're all about the conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, Nancy Lieberman's still playing in them.
She probably could. She probably could, honestly.
I do want to give some hints to what we're thinking, what we're planning. We're gonna have some really cool episodes coming forward, and as I tweeted out earlier, and I'm sure the two of you will reinforce, WNBA players don't take a season off for the most part because they got to play year round, and to me that means that there should be coverage year round, at least somewhat, or some style of coverage. If they're playing overseas, that means, that's somewhat, in my mind, a training camp of sorts for these players. And we can start looking at that and go, you know what, this player's having an amazing season overseas, and translate that forward to their WNBA career. So I'm excited to cover that. I'm also excited for us to dive deep into different teams I know we have a special coming out that we did with Brady Klopfer, who covered LA this year. And we have some other cool, exciting stuff we're gonna drop on you folks. But I do want to thank Pat and Rachel, my lovely co-hosts, for an amazing regular season and playoffs of the WNBA 2018. So thank you, Pat, and thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, guys. It's been so much fun. I can't wait for everything else we have in store.
Yeah, it's been awesome, guys. Thank you. And just, like Ari said, like we will be doing stuff during the off season. We will be watching what's going on overseas. We're going to keep an eye on the college game too. We want to look at it from a WNBA perspective of who you'll be seeing in April's draft. And we're going to, I know I'm personally excited to do a little bit of scouting, and kind of look at who might fit well with what teams. And then hopefully we can, we'll have some, maybe, we get to the spring, some mock drafts maybe, and give you guys an idea as to where we think players would fit and stuff. And just kind of do that. And we'll look at what teams can do to improve in the offseason. I think we're going to see some really interesting stuff this offseason. I don't think you're going to see teams standing pat. I think you're going to see them making moves. I think you may see some splashes. You never know. So I think to keep your eyes open there. And, this league deserves that coverage, and we want to do that. And, we're going to it'll be a little bit quieter now. We'll have some more busier times, obviously, when free agency kicks off in February and the draft and then when training camp opens. Obviously, when we kind of flip the calendar to 2019, things will get a little bit busier in the offseason, but we're going to be committed to this, and we're here, and we want to give it the coverage it deserves.
Yeah, and, so college ball pertaining to the W, overseas ball pertaining to the W, CBA, that's going to be a big one. Yeah. Off-season movement, something you touched on. I expect a little bit more movement than we're used to in the WNBA world this season, only because so many teams are so close and can kind of, taste the other team. And when you're that close, I think it kind of entices you to maybe make a little bit more bold moves instead of being like, oh, yeah, we're 3 years away anyways. I mean, I feel like a lot of teams are able to look at other teams and say, you're right there, so I'm right there also, and make moves from there. I do want to thank all the fans for listening. This has been the last episode for the 2018 season. I'm Aria Schwartz, along with Rachel Galligan and Pat Ralph, the WNBA Insider Show. Each week, different topics important to the W, and we ain't done.